Hello and welcome to the final episode of season 6 of Rusted Junk. This is it.
Hello.
What?
Hello.
Oh, okay. You join in if you want. Anybody
Yeah.
else?
Hello.
Hello. Hello. It's nice to see you. You hardly ever here. Lovely to see you.
Did Amanda have a nip?
Did I have a what?
A nip?
I don't know what that is. That sounds a bit rude.
Yeah.
A drinky poo?
Oh, right. Okay.
No, not yet.
Well, I was about to make some crass comments, so okay, well, we're leaving this in. It's fine. Everyone, you're still along for it. It's the season finale.
Woohoo!
And so we had to do something special for season finale. It couldn't be like Bloodsport 2 or Grease 2. I did threaten that the entire.
Don't. We're not doing that ever. No.
What it was going to be was Cannonball Run 2 until I watched it, and I couldn't inflict that upon any of you or the audience.
Well, I think Joe watched it first.
Yeah, that's what sucks when you do your homework early, because sometimes the homework assignment changes.
Well, it's poor though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not very good.
It's poor. It's just, yeah.
I want to know 1 out of 10 film. I do. We should do that one. It might not have been Cannonball Run 2. It might not have been time for that, but we've got to do a terrible film at some point.
We've got to.
We've done one, Prancer.
Oh, we did, yeah. That's terrific. I did actually say to Amanda, we got the choice. We could do another film and then the season finale, Back to the Future 2. And she said, what do you have in mind if it's not Cannonball Run 2? And I said, Jaws the Revenge. And she went, let's close the season.
It's too Jaws heavy.
Let's close the season.
Oh, do you like my mug, by the way?
Oh, very nice. Yeah, that's my mug.
Cool.
You haven't announced the film.
Yeah, I haven't yet because we're too busy prattling on about waving hello and stuff. Anyway, hi listeners. Right, this is definitely the film is Back to the Future 2, the 1989 sequel to what is possibly, and we'll get to that, the greatest 80s film of all time.
I would say one of the greatest.
Well, we can get that debate. Starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Tom Wilson. Everybody's back except the original Jennifer. Here's the trailer.
Do you remember the future?
You've got to come back with me. Where? Back to the future.
Are we back?
We're back.
What do you mean we're in the future?
October 21st, 2015.
Marty, we're going to be able to see our wedding.
Wow. The future. I gotta check this out, Doc.
Look what happens to your son.
He's a complete wimp.
Don't talk to anyone.
You've been looking. Hey, look!
Don't touch anything.
I need to borrow your hoverboard.
And try not to look at anything. I didn't invent the time machine to win at gambling.
I can't lose.
I invented the time machine to travel through time.
Hey, Doc, I'm all for that. What's wrong with making a few bucks on the side?
Now, the time continuum has been disrupted, creating an alternate 1985.
There have been a few changes.
It's like we're in hell or something.
No, it's Hill Valley, although I can't imagine hell being much worse.
But they'll all be back.
Eat less, slackers!
Biff?
Hello? Hello, anybody home?
Well, that can't be you. You're so big.
Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd. Michael J. Fox.
More like a couple of teenagers, you know?
And Michael J. Fox.
Mom, is that you?
Steven Spielberg presents a Robert Zemeckis film, Back to the Future, Part 2.
Okay, I like that. You don't hear it being said, but it's about time.
Yeah.
Just some context on this. Giddy. I was giddy to watch this film. I couldn't wait for this film to be released. I was like, this is every single Christmas. coming into one, and as soon as you saw that trailer, you went, "I have to see this." Hour one, minute one, hour one, day one. I have to see it.
How long was it after the first one that they released this?
4 years.
4 years?
But to be fair, you get 2 for 1. You get the sequel the next year, so you get number 3 the year after.
So I was 15 when this. 17,
and let me guess,
15.
You never went to the cinema to see it.
17. So you'd waited since you were 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I had plenty to get on with. I was wearing out my copy.
Really?
Wearing out my copy of Jaws and everything. Well, okay. All right, smutty. Okay, I know where that's going.
Sure, it was your copy of Jaws, and not copy of Razzle or something.
Razzle the movie.
No.
Well, do you know what? For all our listeners outside of the UK under a certain age, won't have a clue what Razzle is. It's like
Google it.
It's like Playboy, but with no stories.
It's just pictures.
Yeah.
Razzle's trademark was the Razzle Stack, which is just about the most grim thing you can see. So
tell me more, Dom. I don't know about the stack. I've never seen it myself.
Take your safe settings, switch them off, and then Google Razzle Stack, because that's what it's famous for. It's
Don't do it now.
No, goodness me, no.
Don't do it on a work device either.
And no children listening to this pod do it either. It'll warp your tiny minds.
I'm really intrigued now.
Well, it's more than what was it called? Ooh La La magazine, which featured in this film that we're about to review.
Oh yeah, Ooh La La, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a French one, wasn't it? Because it was priced in francs.
And they're all dressed strangely. That's strange.
Yeah, well, Razzle is Ooh La La as designed by truck drivers in the north of England. I think that's the kind of target market that they're going for.
Excellent.
Well, anyway, that's the explicit rating achieved within the first 2 minutes, Charlie. So there we go.
How are we even related? X-rated magazines to Future 2. That's amazing.
Well, you were the one that brought it all the way back to Ooh La La.
It's Charlie. It's your teenage years. Where else were we going to go apart from
teenage boys? Yeah, from the age of 13 to 17. What would they be doing?
Who knows? Hey. Well, anyway, on my spinning disc of who's going to go first. Do you know what, Amanda? I don't think you've been first. Or have you? Have we actually tried to second guess it and then hope to end on a high because you've gone so low? I can't remember. Do you know what? I'm going to throw it out. Joe, you're going to go first.
Oh, you want? You sure you don't want Amanda to go?
Oh,
okay. Joe, you go first.
Okay. So I kind of have a feeling I'm going to have the lowest score here.
Oh.
No, I think it's a very well written film. You know, especially the whole changes of the timeline and all that. I think that's fascinating. That these people must have spent so much time coming up with all this stuff. I'm always impressed every time I watch it. You know, where I'll catch something that I might have missed previously. And it's so weird to watch this movie without watching the first one first. Right. But we had to for this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I saw it, my issue with it was so much darker than the first one. And that includes the setting too. A lot of it took place at night.
It did.
Yeah. But it's still it's just a very very well written movie, very well acted. There's some weak spots, I think, that I guess we can go over later, but I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh,
I thought you were going low.
Well, for a moment there, I was like thinking it's going to go 5.
Well, I'm sure someone's going to give it a 10 or a 9 or something like that, and an 8 is probably the lowest out of those numbers.
Wow. Okay.
I did want to say too. It reminded me this time for the first time of It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh.
Okay. Right. Oh, themes we'll get into. Wow. Amanda, then let's go. Let's do it.
All right. I was really looking forward to this, and then I got bored. I know.
Wow.
Even I was like, "Why are you getting bored with this movie? You've seen it loads and
Yeah.
really enjoyed it." I don't know if it was the mood I was in or what. I don't know, but I got bored.
What did you say to yourself?
What's the matter, man?
Yeah.
But things annoyed me in it.
What, the inconsistencies? I mean, there's some.
There were some inconsistencies. I mean, we were talking about them sort of a little bit in the film, but I think the greatest one for me is Doc keeps saying "Great Scott" a lot, which is so annoying.
I don't get
Sorry,
that one.
sorry. Can I just tell you where you are? You're on an 80s podcast with a film that's been well known.
I know,
and that's his
but
trademark.
It was overused.
That's his trademark.
But it was overused. It was. So that annoyed me.
Who is Scott?
Joe, do you know what? Don't be worried about your score. I think it's about to be broken.
I did, and I chuckled in the trailer that we just watched as well. Michael J. Fox as his daughter. I quite like that. But for me, yeah, I guess it was trying to be something. It succeeded. And I think the whole timeline thing was clever how it was done. But you had to keep up with it. If you weren't keeping up with it, you were a little bit lost, I think. So you had to pay attention.
That's why it's good
Yeah.
when you can talk to yourself, because you have two people that can follow the movie.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm unfortunately going lower than Joe.
Mm-mm.
I'm giving it a 7.
What?
A 7. Sorry.
What?
That's still a good score in my book.
Right, Dom, help me out. Come on, man. Let's bring it back up together.
Well, I thought it's a fun film. I found it enjoyable.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a good start.
It's a fun film.
I think it's right. That is not me damning it with faint praise. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's pacey. But I also think it is innovative. It's creative the way they do it. You know, it's the only sequel that I think I've watched, which is kind of partly set in its own first film. That's well done, and I do like the timelines and the complexity around that. I think it works really well, and for a mainstream blockbuster, I think it's actually a cut above in that respect. But I think it is flawed, but it feels a bit churlish to be critical of a film when it does try so hard and it takes some risks, and it's trying to put a smile on the face of its audience. I think it gets a load of goodwill in the bank, and the first film is so great and is so heavily referenced throughout that also I think helps keep the score ticking over. I think the bits I enjoyed the least were the new bits that don't make reference. So when it's in 2015, but we'll get into all that later on when we discuss the film. I think one thing I'd also like to discuss later is whether or not 2 and 3 should have been separate films and whether they should have been combined. Would that have tipped it into higher scoring territory? But for me, as a standalone film, Back to the Future 2, I have also scored it a 7.
Ooh,
I got the highest score.
Oh god.
Joe.
I think I might change my score.
No, don't. You can't. You're not allowed.
I think
Yeah.
no, you can't. Don't join the 7 Club.
I just want to say, you guys need to watch this again. You need to see Charlie's face as Dom is speaking. It looks like somebody told him there is no Santa Claus.
Is that why you were chuckling?
I was watching Charlie's face throughout the whole time.
It's just, well,
You could just see his face like slink to disappointment.
Oh.
wait a minute. Right. Okay,
He's
so
regained his composure. Let's hear.
Right.
Let's hear.
In all fairness, I did love Back to the Future, the first one.
which is the question I was going to ask. So what would we give Back to the Future? I'll go first. 10.
9.5.
My
for me.
goodness. Tell me where you're taking that half mark off. But anyway, okay. Dom.
the dog. I don't know.
I think it would be a 10. Yeah, it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite 80s films. Yeah.
Oh, Joe's gonna go 9.
No, I'd say 9.5 too. Where would I take
Hang
it
on,
off?
that's his highest score so far.
Yeah, I don't like giving out 10s.
Gave Joker a 10.
Yeah, it's very rare. But anyway, yeah, it's not. I love that film. That's all I'm going to say. It's much better than this one. And I think even at the time, people, when this came out, it's tough you had to compare it to the first one. I think what a big problem with this film is they kept repeating a lot of the stuff that was in the first film, but they had to, so it was a victim of the success of the first film. It's almost like, I think some people felt a little ripped off because it's like, well, we've already seen this movie. It's like, why are we watching it again? But the cool parts is getting to see Marty interact, stuff that we never saw in the first film.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't go back to the first film and look for Marty, the Marty number 2, because he doesn't exist, but it's just so brilliantly written. I think that the way that they did it, but it does suffer from the fact that the story is being retold. Like, we've already seen that story.
Go on, Charles. Go on.
Yeah, let's hear from you.
Well, I was going to give it a 9, but
Don't
I'm like,
leave.
do you know what? Screw it. I'm giving it a 10 just to offset your scores. No, I'm not. I can't give it a 10 because it is flawed. So when you said that you were going low, I was like thinking Joe's going to be a 5, Dom's going to be a 9. Man,
Why
you
do
were
you
going to be
think
a
Joe
9
would give it 5?
because it's Joe. I mean,
Thank you.
yeah. I've listened to you so many times in your podcast. I sometimes try to second guess you. I invariably get it wrong, so there's no apology needed because it is my mistake. However, you're talking about a sequel that has to hit the right notes and just put it in a different setting. When he wakes up in 1955, Back to the Future, he hears his mum's voice. Great. You're going to hear the same thing when his mum is older. The familiarity is off the scale. The plot has problems. There are particular problems with the time travel aspect of it. I know that when I went to see it, this was it was a college outing where we went, had a few drinks beforehand and then went to see it. And we were just giddy and just walked out of there. I thought it was fantastic. Apart from one of our friends, George, came out and was trying to get back into the pub and trying to explain it all. And we're like, George, don't bother. We just enjoy it. Yes, but you do realise that if Biff came back and... No, it doesn't matter, George. Just enjoy it. We just had a good time. Do you know what? We're going to go see it again in a couple of days. It's fine. We're going to go again. Great. George was right, because when you look back at the film, the things that really irked him, that he really wanted to get off his chest, stand more than now. I know we'll get into it. The thing that bugs me the most is Biff coming back from 1955, having given himself the sports almanac. Why hasn't that changed? Why hasn't the Hill Valley changed into the hellhole? Because it's been changed by Biff Tannen and his success. Nope, everything's still the same. Even though he's come back and he doesn't exist in the deleted scene in this film, old Biff disappears like Marty would have done in the photo from number 1. As you just see him, getting old and breaking off his stick in the car. There are things like that annoy me now because they don't make any sense. I'm sure we'll get to some others. But it's what you want from a sequel. The callbacks are there. As you said, Dom, the new stuff's there. All the things that you want to see. Oh, what will it look like? All of these things that we're used to. What will it look like updated? Well, here you go. There's you've got power laces, you've got self-drying jackets, you've got the Weather Channel, you've got all of this sort of stuff, and you're just thinking, wow. And we'll talk about how much of that stuff comes true later on. So yeah, it's a 9 from me. It isn't the 10 that Joe probably I was going to give, but 9877. Wow. Feels like The Godfather. I never thought it'd be you, Dom.
I knew it was me being disappointed in. I knew it. I'm sorry, but it's an integrity thing. I think we've already, when we were talking about favourite films of the 80s, I think I already declared my intent with Aliens. I think if I had to choose one, it'd be that.
Yeah.
But Back to the Future, Goonies, E.T., these would all be in that top 5, I think. And I just think that Back to the Future 2 is a slight, well, 7 out of 10, still very respectable. Between 3, if we're reviewing 3, and I'm sure we'll talk about the third part of the trilogy later on, I think I'd score that higher, not having watched it for a few years. But
yeah, it's great. I think that's great. Equally, I'd give that. I wouldn't give that 10. I'd give that 9 because it's good. It's very good fun.
I remember the reviews over here when it came out, and even the people that had seen it. Yeah, a lot of people liked it and everything. But again, it has so much to live up to from the first movie because people they weren't expecting that to be a hit. And it was, because number one, Michael J. Fox was a television star. It's hard for a television star to break into theatrical movies. But, a lot of the reviews said that let's hope the third one is better, And when the third one came out, everybody did say, well, the third one is much better. But as time goes on, I think that this definitely has grown on me, the second one.
Right.
The best way to watch it is just watch them maybe one after the other, in 3 days or whatever.
Yeah, spot on. Well, and particularly 2 and 3, I think, as well. And I don't know if we're going to get into this now or later, but I do assert that the best way to respect the original Back to the Future would have been to have combined 2 and 3 into a longer film, and I think there is, because 2 is a fairly short film and there is some padding. I think there are some bits where they could have trimmed it, amalgamated it with the third one. Perhaps it would have just been too complicated in terms of the plot lines and the time travel interdependencies and things. But I'm interested to watch somebody make an attempt to edit that together anyway.
Like a definitive fan cut. Yeah, absolutely. I think we temporarily lost Amanda, but it's a shame actually. So we're going to go into roll call. Joe, if I do roll call, are you going to do your roll call thing again? Because it helps me edit the thing. That'd be really useful. Great. Let's leave it at that.
Roll call.
So, Michael J. Fox films. Do we have favourites outside of Back to the Back to the Future universe? Oh,
she's back.
Hey, she's back just in time. Roll call.
You okay there?
I'm back. Sorry, I had a coughing fit. I've got another cold.
Oh, okay. Must be the Back to the Future mug.
So, Amanda, question for you then. Favourite non-Back to the Future Michael J. Fox film?
I've got a problem with favourite because I don't really know many.
Okay. Any Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for any. Yeah.
Okay. No, which was shot first, wasn't it? And then they piggybacked off the back of Back to the Future.
Of it, that's right. Yeah.
What else? He wasn't in anything else, was he?
Well, that's a good point, actually. He was, and we'll get
was
into
it. A lot of TV stuff, wasn't he?
Oh, wow.
It's a lot slimmer pickings than you'd imagine, actually. And obviously, a big chunk of that's down to his unfortunate illness. But yeah, he's not, to say he's a well-known celebrity and a well-known actor, actually, his filmography is pretty thin, I think.
You really think so? I think it's... some absolute belters in there.
Here's my controversial shout then, and we'll get onto her later, but I think he's not the biggest movie star in this film.
Oof.
I've said it, yeah.
Christopher Lloyd then? Well...
No.
What's the definition of big?
Elizabeth Shue. If you look at her filmography, and we'll get onto it, I think she's been in bigger parts in bigger movies than Michael J. Fox there. Credibility's on the table. 5 minutes into roll call.
Wow, okay. Joe?
Who is that? Elizabeth Shue.
Oh, God bless you.
Jennifer. Cocktail?
The girlfriend.
Cocktail? We'll get to it. Cocktail.
He's mostly known still for Family Ties over here.
Yeah.
And Back to the Future. It's like it's kind of like which one is the better one for him. But I've always thought of him as Alex from Family Ties. He was so good in that role. Just amazing. Just like it's rare. I don't know. For me anyway, I always look forward to every episode that was coming out because he was brilliant. Just loved him.
Yeah, he was good.
I didn't realize how big it, because it wasn't that big over here at all, really, was it? I mean, you might remember it, Charlie, because you're a devotee of all things American and 80s. But in researching for this, I see he won the Emmy 3 years on the trot, 86, 87, and 88 for Family Ties.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the Golden Globe as well. So that, I mean, that's pretty. So it must be like him and Bruce Willis must be the most prime examples of people who've made it from TV into film. And as Joe says, that's no easy feat, really.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Well, my I mean, I have two from this list, two hot recommendations. He then went on to make The Secret of My Success with Helen Slater. I love that film. I genuinely love that film. I would put that up there, very, very high score. Really, really good. They then tried to make him more gritty with Bright Lights, Big City, where he played a coke-addicted office worker who was getting himself into trouble. Didn't work at all. They then tried again with Casualties of War with Sean Penn. That's quite harrowing. That film.
I remember that one. Yeah.
That's my favourite non-Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Casualties of War. If I had to pick one, that'd be mine.
Because everyone, I mean, I know it deals with very difficult subjects, but he still comes across as Martin McFly in Vietnam. It's just, it's a bit like a Hugh Grant film. Hugh Grant plays Hugh Grant whenever in every film he's in. But I did like the sending
like
himself
Bill Murray.
up.
Bit like Bill Murray.
What?
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays himself all the time.
Yeah, we love him for it.
We had that conversation before, and you're like, "No, he doesn't." I'm like, "Yeah, he does."
I don't.
But with Michael J. Fox, I mean, when you look at him, he doesn't grow a beard. He doesn't get a different hairstyle. He's always the same looking guy. Like he could be Alex Keaton in Casualties of War, or Bright Lights, Big City, or in Back to the Future. It's just so bizarre that he never played a role where he had a mustache and a beard or anything like that. It's just I don't know. You do see him as Michael J. Fox. It's hard to see him as the actual character.
Well,
Maybe he can't actually grow any
Well,
facial.
could I then offer the fact that he then goes on to make The Hard Way, which I think is one of my top 3 films that he's in, with James Woods. So for those that don't know, Michael J. Fox plays somebody, like a Harrison Ford style character playing an Indiana Jones style character, and he wants to do something gritty. He wants to win an Oscar. He wants to win something better. So he wants to play a cop. So he wants to go undercover with James Woods, who's already on a case. I've never heard James Woods swear so much in a film, which is always a pleasure because I love James Woods to pieces. But he sends himself up as the prima donna Hollywood star that's pampered and stuff, and it's just amazing. I love The Hard Way. I'm halfway through watching him in a romantic comedy, Doc Hollywood. Does anyone remember that?
Yeah. Never really seen it though.
Yeah, not bad at all. He went from there, then did The American President, Michael Douglas, The Frighteners, which has a cult following, Mars Attacks. He was the voice of Stuart Little in 1, 2, and 3. He then went into Spin City.
Spin City was very good.
Spin City was very, very good. Very good. He had his own show towards about 10 years ago, the Michael J. Fox show. Obviously, with his condition at the moment, that's so much harder for him to do that. But he's a great ambassador. And the one thing I'd probably say from his appearance on Curb Your Enthusiasm did a lot to highlight what his particular illness. Because, Larry David, saying he's making it all up and all this sort of stuff. And it's just a great episode. But it suddenly puts it front and center without going, we have to make this front and center. It just does it so subtly that it's hard hitting in that sense. So
and it shows that he can kind of laugh at himself and not because a lot of I think actors in that condition might have said it's like, well, you can't even touch something like that because it's just offensive not only to me but to other people that have it. But good for him for doing what he did.
Yeah.
So look, if there's a consensus around him being a great ambassador for Parkinson's and a good egg, I think there is. If it's not in bad taste, I guess my question is, what do we think what do we think his film career would have been if it wasn't for the fact that he was unable to act? You know, we're on the spectrum of kind of 80 stars, from Tom Cruise on one end to Steve Guttenberg on the other, would he have been? Because, you know, there is definitely some truth in the fact that he was a bit one-dimensional, I think, in some of his casting choices.
Do you know what? I'd compare him, excuse me a minute, to Jason Bateman.
Jason Bateman, you are correct, because Jason Bateman tried to be him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with Silver Spoons, that's when Jason Bateman came about, and he was trying to be kind of like an Alex Keaton kind of character, except he was a little bit like Eddie Haskell from Leave It to Beaver. But I think he kind of mimicked, Michael J. Fox.
He was in Teen Wolf too, wasn't he?
Oh,
true.
was he? That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So with his sort of TV career, really, Jason's career, what's the name of the series he's been on Netflix?
Arrested Development, Ozark.
Yeah, I would have seen Michael J. Fox play something very similar, actually. If it wasn't Jason Bateman, it might have been him.
You can see him in Office Christmas Party, which has suddenly become one of our favourite things to watch.
I love that film.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very
It's such good fun.
It is good fun. Anyway, we must move on. But yeah.
Well, I just want to say one thing I think that would happen if that didn't hit him, that disease. There would be a Back to the Future 4.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it?
Sure about that.
Oh, excuse the pun. Do you not think it ran out of steam?
Oof, look at that.
Three.
Seamless
Uh,
fun.
What did there?
Money talks.
By the way.
I'm surprised they haven't rebooted it
Oh,
with
God,
a different
don't.
cast.
They probably will.
Well,
Yeah. Mm.
indeed. We might have lost Dom, I think.
He's frozen.
Yeah,
I was
we have.
frozen in pensive thought there.
Oh,
There
it's
we
back.
go.
Yay, Dom's back.
That'd have been so great if that picture
Yeah.
would have stayed up the whole time.
Well,
So are you on
Sorry.
blinking or something? No, Wi-Fi just dropped. Listeners don't need to know about
Just
my
got your message.
Yeah.
yeah, we're still here.
You look
Christopher-
like the ultimate thinker.
You were like that.
You look pensive.
my pretentious
Awesome.
pose.
Christopher
Right, so who
Lloyd.
else was in the film?
Christopher
Then?
Lloyd.
Is he Doc?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you say Christopher Lloyd and not Back to the Future. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Taxi.
Right.
Yeah, Taxi. I know which film Dom's going to promote that he's in.
Well, it's one of my deeply loved films, bit niche, but I have mentioned it on this pod before, which is Clue. If we do a special round one time and all get to pick one, I think that's going to be my choice.
Well, it's funny you say that because season 7 is all about Lucky Dip. We might call it Vendor's Choice, we might call it whatever, but yeah, you will get your chance
okay,
to
well,
do Clue, and I'll get my
he's a-
chance to see it for the first time in about 35 years or.
Professor Plum in Clue, that's my standout role. But he's been in some great films, hasn't he? One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But small parts in brilliant films. Adam's Family, I think, is a very good commercial film. I liked it anyway.
Well, last week I watched the Dream Team with Christopher Lloyd. Oh, what about this? So for a cast, the four of them, all in a mental institution, and they all go for a day out, and the person who's looking after them gets shot, and they're all on their own in the
Oh my
city.
God! What's this film?
The Dream Team.
I've
You've got
never heard of it.
Christopher Lloyd, Michael Keaton, Stephen Furst, and is it Peter Boyle? Is everybody? Yes. Peter Boyle.
Yeah.
Christopher Lloyd is a schizophrenic who thinks he's a doctor.
God.
Michael Keaton has anger issues. Peter Boyle thinks he's Jesus. It's, it might sound like one of those films that you go, well, it'll never get made today. It wouldn't get made today,
What
which
year
is why
was
I'm
that
happy
made?
that it has been made. 1980. I'm gonna say 1989. I'm gonna say 1990. So the
Okay.
same year as Back to the Future 3. Yeah, I think roughly. It's brilliant. I mean, everyone's great in it. But I might have spoilt it for you because for the first 10 minutes of the film, you think Christopher Lloyd is the doctor at the hospital. But yeah, and then you find out. But anyway, I'm not going to spoil the rest of it. All I can say is that if you're a fan of Ray Charles, there is a scene in it which every time I go back to Oswestry is usually referenced by my good friend Alex every single time. I'm going to say Buckaroo Banzai. He's the Klingon bad guy in Star Trek 3.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
He's the ultimate bad guy in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I mean, crikey, if you don't have nightmares after that, then yeah, something wrong there. But yeah, that's
what's amazing about him though is like when I first saw him in Taxi, and he was a huge hit when he came on to join the cast. Like I think it was like in the middle seasons. I thought he was so crazy that I thought that's how he was in real life. I had not seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest yet. Yeah. And I just thought that that's the type of personality he was, and that he couldn't branch out and do anything else. But there's an episode I know in Taxi where it shows how he became the Jim that he was. But he was someone that actually, he went to either Yale or Harvard. He was a genius, and he was against the taking of drugs. And then his girlfriend convinced him to take drugs, and then he went crazy. But it showed just how much range this guy actually has. And it's very impressive. And I'm so glad that he was cast as Doc, because Charlie and I went over it when we were doing the specials.
What podcast we did.
There were so many other people that could have been Doc, and thank God we got the one that we got.
Well, we did come up with an alternate, which we both agreed on after a long discussion. John Cusack as Marty McFly, and Gene Wilder as Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, Christopher Lloyd every time.
Yeah, I know, but if you're playing fantasy, Gene Wilder. Can you imagine Gene Wilder would have been brilliant at that role.
But he's Willy Wonka.
Oh yeah, well, Christopher Lloyd's Reverend in Taxi. People can change. Anyway, onward to the lovely, quite lovely Leah Thompson. Big Leah Thompson fan. Acting, of course. But where did she start? What was her first film? Come on, everyone. In unison, her first film. Amanda, we covered it right at the very start. Jaws 3.
Was it?
I was gonna...
Yes, was her first film. And didn't get eaten by the shark. Surprisingly, in Jaws 3, the one thing that we didn't talk about is not many people got eaten in the second part, in the later half. Leah Thompson got brushed. She fell into the water and the shark brushed her leg, and it basically grazed her leg.
Scarred for life.
Scarred for life. Anyway, she's also in Red Dawn, Wolverines, Back to the Future, the wonderfully, delightfully absurd Space Camp.
I like Space Camp.
I like Space Camp, right? But for those that don't know Space Camp, they basically are kids having a tour around the shuttle, and somebody presses the button and launches the shuttle into space. So they have to work out how to get home in a space shuttle. Yeah. Don't expect a lot of insightful, wonderfully technical schematics and stuff like that. It's just press a button and they come home. Spoiler alert. Of course, Howard the Duck. Or Howard, a New Breed of Hero. Of course, she's wonderful in that. Especially at the end. Some Kind of Wonderful, which we've covered again on the podcast, as well as Howard the Duck. A film called Casual Sex. She then starred in her own series, Caroline in the City. She was in a film called For the People. She was in the Muppets film. She's apparently plays a doctor. You're going to have to help me out here, because I think it's a trash show that I would never watch. Star Trek Picard. She played a doctor in one of the episodes. Had her own series, which I'm trying to find and I can't find anywhere. Separated at Birth. And is in this new show that came out last week, Joe, that I told you to watch, and it's dreadful, but she's good in it. It's about it. But I'm
going to say something that might disappoint you. She's kind of like James Spader. I know you're a big fan of him. And who's the other one?
Too much, Joe. Too much on one podcast, but go on.
And who's that other one that was a mannequin?
Andrew McCarthy.
Yeah.
You put Andrew McCarthy and James Spader in the same sentence.
I think I know
what I'm trying.
Yeah, go on, Joe. Get it off your chest, and I'll back you up.
Don't start forming allegiances.
Nobody really knew who they were, and you could put Leah Thompson in that category too. You know,
You are joking.
I am serious. It's
She
like no
stars in
one
the
gave a
biggest
damn.
film of the 80s, and people go, I don't know who you're talking about.
That's basically all they knew her from. But I'm sure that if they asked, well, who played the mother in Back to the Future, no one would be able to tell you. I would say most people over here wouldn't be able to tell you.
Good Lord.
Generic.
Yeah.
Yeah, just 80s movie filler.
Well, one of my 80s crushes. So
I
there.
tend to agree with you, Dom. Actually,
Oh God, look at you. Look at the three of you tonight. I mean, hang your heads in shame on some of the things that have been said so far. And we're not even past roll call yet.
we're not. Hurry
No.
up.
Right,
The truth
okay.
hurts.
Tom Wilson. Right, easy. Biff. Just a lot of voiceover stuff. Let's move on.
He's
Hang
got a
on,
very
I got-
animated face.
Who else has got anything else apart from
Well, I thought when we got onto him on roll call, I'd have a rich contribution to make here. And it was only when I was doing the research that I realised I was getting him mixed up with Clancy Brown.
from
Yeah.
Shawshank Redemption? Right.
I thought it was the same actor. So I thought, Shawshank Redemption, Starship Troopers, two amazing films. But yeah, you're right. Tom Wilson, who's the actual person, nothing really, is he?
Stuff, as we call it. It's almost like any old 80s actor that's 30 to 40, they were in Miami Vice. In Miami Vice, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, Hardcastle and McCormick, The Love Boat, stuff. They were just interchange.
If you're ever doing your swapping around of stars, Clancy Brown could deputise for Tom Wilson easily by virtue of the fact that they're almost identical.
No, I'm not sure
Yeah,
about
I don't
that,
know,
Joe.
but I don't see that.
Oh, good God, somebody agreed with me. All right, okay. All right, well.
I was gonna say though, but what's weird about Tom Wilson though, he somehow in ways makes that movie. You know, his performance as Biff. You know, throughout the whole 3 movies, he's very, very good. I don't understand why he didn't go on to have a career. You know, it's like you kind of wonder why didn't somebody say this guy? Why doesn't he have Tom Hanks' career? Tom Hanks was very similar to him. He was a comedian, you know, that could, I guess, at times do drama. It's just bizarre because I think he's excellent in this movie, in all the movies.
I'll take Tom Wilson over Tom Hanks. But anyway, Elizabeth Shue. Yes, I'm going to say it, everybody. The Karate Kid. Fine.
Karate.
I know, an old perennial favourite. But
Adventures in Babysitting.
Adventures in Babysitting with Thor. The first iteration of Thor. Cocktail's wonderful. Can we agree?
Yeah.
Can we at least agree? Let's have a truce, ceasefire. Cocktail is delightfully entertaining.
It's all right.
Good film.
Yeah.
I didn't like the suicide part though.
Well, all right, okay. Spoiler alert for those who haven't watched it. But then you have had, 35 years to watch it. So,
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. No spoilers then. She was in Soap Dish. I thought Dom at this point was going to raise her.
Yeah. Well,
Oscar Bantz.
Waiting for the theme music to kick
Oh,
in. But
Oscar Bantz.
Yeah. So she's the only one that I could find that's been nominated for the Oscars 1996 Academy Awards, where she was unsuccessful category of Best Supporting Actress for Leaving Las Vegas.
Who did she lose to?
Well, it's a bit of a funny one actually. Some strong nominees she was up against. So there was Emma Thompson for Sense and Sensibility, Meryl Streep, Versatility is Meryl Streep for The Bridges of Madison County, Sharon Stone for Casino, and then none of those won. The actual winner was Susan Sarandon for Dead Man Walking. But I can't believe Meryl Streep and Emma Thompson didn't win it, seeing as they had like a
And there was supporting actress.
Yeah, these are all supporting actresses. Yeah.
Why wasn't Susan Sarandon nominated for Best Actress? Because she was the only woman in that movie.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, it was supporting. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. So anyway, tough year, and somehow Susan Sarandon won it.
I'd have given it to Elizabeth Shue, to be honest,
course
out of
you
that
would've.
list. Well,
And you would have given her a 10 too.
10 to what, Joe? Anyway, The Saint, Val Kilmer. Hollow Man,
What?
Kevin Bacon.
I
Yeah.
was going to say Val Kilmer was in Back to the Future too.
No, The Saint.
No, but now
Oh,
I
look at
get you.
Oh, Joe's in playful joshing mode.
No, no, it wasn't Josh, and I was serious. It was like, why is he mentioning Val Kilmer in the Saint?
Val Kilmer was the Saint.
Well, I didn't know you were off of
Kevin Bacon, Hollow Man, very good. I enjoyed that, and more recently, The Boys. She was in, only for season 2, but still, in mind.
CSI for a number of years when it was in its prime, most successful years.
Which one?
Yeah.
CSI.
Okay.
And there were all the spin-offs. Yeah, the original CSI, which I had a bit of a soft spot for, to be honest. But she's very good in that.
I don't know. We talk about this here, but she really wasn't needed in this movie.
Right. Well,
her part was criminally written, though, wasn't it? I mean, we'll get onto it, I'm sure.
But the only reason she's in that, kind of a little bit of trivia now, is if they didn't intend to make a sequel. Because if they did, Robert Zemeckis said, I would never have put her in the car because she's totally superfluous to the story.
Well, she spent most of it asleep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it must be the easiest money she's ever earned, this film, because the whole character is designed to get out of the way as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
They could have easily reconned that by just like him saying, it's like, well, if I push this button, it'll transport her back to present day Hill Valley or whatever it's called.
How does that work? It's like a jetpack time machine.
There were a few things like that, though, and we'll get onto the guy who played the dad that didn't return, and so they made the person that replaced him, hover upside down, and just these absurdities and things. I thought they could have dealt with a few of the tricky cards they were dealt more effectively, to be honest.
And I think I'd like to talk about that particular thing after when we finish roll call, but let's rattle through the rest of it. James Tolkien, Principal Strickland in this one. Most famous for anybody? For the other film?
Top Gun?
Top Gun. Yeah, you two characters are going to Top Gun. He was also in Masters of the Universe, which I unfortunately started watching and then realised how dreadful that film truly is. And he's also in Dick Tracy. Casey Siemaszko, one of the original guys in Biff's Gang. Again, he's back as in Biff's Gang in the future. He was Billy in Stand By Me. He played the guy getting picked on in 3 O'Clock High, which I know you and I, Joe, Dom, kind of like because we heard the review from the other movie podcast, and 3 O'Clock High got really, really highly rated, and it's a good film. He was in Biloxi Blues with Matthew Broderick. He was also in The Phantom, which the next person was in, and NYPD Blue. Moving on, we've got Billy Zane, who then became famous between Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2. And so it was odd to see somebody that was like getting on his way to being a proper movie star, playing very much a back role as one of Biff's gang. Billy Zane, Dead Calm, with I think might be his best film, where Nicole Kidman and her husband pick up lone person on in their yacht with a story to tell. Memphis Belle
over here.
Memphis Belle with Eric Stoltz. See, I managed to get it in there.
Oh, Eric Stoltz.
Can't talk Back to the Future and not have a little bit of Eric Stoltz.
He's another one. He's in that category with.
He's not in that. He's not. Don't be silly, Joe.
He can't act.
He was Twin Peaks, the Tombstone. He was the Phantom in the film. He was in Titanic. It all went downhill after Titanic. He played himself in Zoolander 2 and appeared in The Boys for a couple of episodes.
I liked him in Titanic, and I liked him in Tombstone. I thought he was good in that.
Brief cameos from Elijah Wood and Samuel Jackson as well, before they were well established. Well, obviously, Elijah Wood was just a kid, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Who was Samuel Jackson?
Wasn't he the guy when Marty teleported into the future and he had a baseball bat and he teleported into his daughter's bedroom and he kicked them out of the house?
Wasn't he?
Wasn't it him?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think it was
that.
Are you going to say it's Lawrence Fishburne? Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go over that.
Elijah Wood, though. I've got that to cling to.
Elijah Wood, yeah. Deep Impact, Lord of the Rings, obviously Green Street, Eternal Sunshine and Spotless Mind. And then lastly, Mary Ellen Trainor. Anybody?
Who was she in the movie?
She was one of the police officers.
Oh, those police officers are pretty hot.
Yeah. Well, You're gonna kick yourself when I tell you. You might just have known it from her voice.
No.
She's Gail Weathers from Die Hard, the reporter. She's also the psychiatrist in the Lethal Weapon films, all 4 of them.
Yeah, I'm not going to kick myself for those.
And she was also in Forrest Gump, again, the most overrated film of the 90s, possibly of all time. But that's the end of roll call.
We're just never going to be able to review a Tom Hanks film, are we? They're just
they can.
I
may just pick Bachelor Party, which I think is incredible.
Tom Hanks is Charlie's George Clooney for me.
Or Emilio Estevez, or basically a lot of people that you don't like. Charlie Sheen. I know the list is long and distinguished.
Well, Emilio Estevez is universally hated, though. So,
well, for those that like Men at Work,
strong comment there.
Strong. The generalizations are just being thrown around.
Joe's taking the heat off me now, thank God.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, somebody is now going to say the person that we did miss, who is in this film, Crispin Glover, who is in this film but isn't in this film. And does somebody want to take it from the top? Because I don't think Amanda knows his story.
Yeah, so I mean, I will mention it again. I didn't go back and look into it, but I remember when this stuff was going on, he had a problem with the ending in Back to the Future 1 because he felt that it glorified money and success and that it was a bad message to the audience. And what's funny now is that this guy was born a century too early or a couple of decades too early, because if he complained about this stuff now, he would be looked at as a hero by most of the directors. But it pissed off Robert Zemeckis and said, look, thanks for your input, but I don't need your input. But he really was pushing for the ending to change. And then he was basically let go, right?
No, he then said he wanted to be paid as equally as it was in the first film, and they offered him far less. And then said, yeah, well, then we're going to write you out the film, and then replace you. So they did. They got another actor in, Jeffrey, I think somebody or other. Look at us with our massive research. That's why you see George McFly upside down, because it's just somebody that's playing him.
He's got a mask on there too, right?
That was the weakest part of the whole film, I thought.
I agree.
The McFly family house in 2025.
Yeah. And the blatant back shots of the actor that's replacing him, especially when, towards the end when Marty sees George knock out Biff, and then you see him carrying off Lorraine from the back. That's not Crispin Glover. I mean, it doesn't even look like the same build. It doesn't look like the same person. And you're like thinking, I can see what you're trying to do. What happened was he settled out of court. He took them to court and said, you're using my likeness. You are taking my character and you are trying to superimpose my character onto somebody else. And he won. He won $768,000 from the makers of Back to the Future, and changed contracts forever. So it meant that any contract going forward, if somebody has played a character, they have rights for that character not to suddenly be. I mean, it's fine if you get somebody else to play them, for whatever reason, but you can't just go, yeah, it's the same actor, but it isn't. So we just turn them upside down and shoot them from the back and stuff. So it did change Hollywood for the better.
We've got digital technology now, deep fakes. We don't need actors.
Well,
we don't need roads either.
He became kind of blacklisted though after that stuff with Back to the Future. He really didn't do too much.
He did Charlie's Angels 1 and 2.
I did 1 and 2.
Very good in that.
I mean, he was in Beowulf, which I liked him as Grendel, and he was in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
But the whole thing though is that he could have had much bigger career. He was kind of like a little bit like Ezra Miller, I would say. Just he was a loose cannon, where I'm pretty sure he experimented with a lot of drugs. Like he went on. Did you guys familiar with David Letterman?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, he went on David Letterman's show, and he was high as a kite, and he just was acting very weird. And you could see it on YouTube. They have that video where he goes behind the desk and he wants to show David Letterman his kicks, and he almost kicks him in the face, like he misses by inches. And so David Letterman banned him from the show for life after that. It's very bizarre, and his whole career just went downhill after, I guess, Back to the Future. And I mean, it seemed like Back to the Future was the start of his career, and then it just ended because of all of the problems that he had. I mean, I can understand the money thing, but I still would have done it, you know. Zemeckis was wrong because, yeah, Dom is right. It could have been so much better if they would have written the father figure in a little bit more into the plot, but their hands were tied since they couldn't do it. It's just unfortunate that they couldn't have worked things out.
Speaking of the families, we have Grandpa Biff and grandson Biff. Where was Biff Senior?
Biff.
Mid Biff doesn't make an appearance anywhere. Just skip straight to young Biff. Again, minor annoyances. Should we get to the film anyway? Thank you for explaining that, Joe. Appreciate it.
Except they got it wrong. But...
Are we doing minor annoyances now?
Yeah, I think most people know this film. I mean, we don't have to go through it. Obviously, he travels because there's a problem. Turns out his son's a bit of a wimp. It's not very confident. The reason why is because Doc lies at the start of the film. Doc lies at the start of the film.
He's some sort of social inadequate, isn't he? Who's lecturing when we first encounter him, he's leering at women on the street. He's more than
I wouldn't say leering. He's just looking around, and he's a bit all over the place. Doc lies at the start of Back to the Future, the end of Back to the Future, and the start of this film. What is it? Do we turn out to be assholes or something? No, you're fine. It's your kids, Marty. Something's got to be done about your kids. Well, turns out in the future they are. He's got a pretty poor job. I don't think Jennifer has a job. Everything seems to be busted in the house, that they can't have got the money to fix anything. So I think Doc lies in order to just get them in and say, you got to do something with your kids.
It's a weird...
sorry, go on, John.
But no, you go, Dom. Sorry.
I was just a quick comment. I know we're skipping over it, but I thought the start of the film was really strong. Actually, in less than 60 seconds, you're into it. You've got the Spielberg logo on the screen. You're straight into seeing Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd again, and then bang, you're straight into it. And I like that. It hits the ground running, and the pace. For all its ups and downs, the pace is pretty relentless throughout it, I thought.
What stood out for me, which I thought was a weird addition to the plot, was that they kept pushing that Marty didn't like to be called chicken, because that was never approached at all in the first movie, and it's almost like they threw that in there, and it always kind of bothers me because it carries over to the third one too, but it's almost like, well, we got to do something, so let's just say that he's always had a nerve for being called a chicken, which is kind of stupid, I thought.
Well, it's the crux of his downfall, isn't it?
It is, but again, like we that was never addressed in the first movie, that he had this I don't know if you would call him arrogance or whatever, that he always had to stand up if somebody it's a huge character flaw for sure.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's a plot device, isn't it? They get him to do things out of character 3 or 4 times by just using that chicken reference, and also there's a couple of other examples where he gets out of a sticky situation by saying, "What's that?" and people whip round and he runs off. The first time you get away with it, but they do it at least twice in the film, and maybe it's tongue in cheek, maybe they're cheeky enough to get away with it, but yeah, the writing sometimes is a little bit repetitive and predictable, I think.
Yeah.
I did notice that in the diner when he orders like a Pepsi, and what I didn't understand was why there were televisions interacting with people. I just thought that was a bit weird. Because normally it'd have been touchscreen, wouldn't it? Anyway.
Well, we still don't have power laces. I mean, after all this time.
But
well, no, it was an 80s diner though. So they were trying to make it as 80s as possible. So we didn't have touchscreen back in the 80s.
Oh, okay. Well, they've got Michael Jackson on it, but he'd have in 2015 he'd have died in 2009.
No, but that was the old Michael Jackson,
Yeah.
and it was like a computer-generated version of him. I do
Like a
wonder,
Max Headroom version.
Right.
did Michael Jackson do the voice for that, or was it just somebody else doing it?
Somebody
Does
else, I
anyone know?
believe. Yeah.
I love that diner. I thought that diner was pretty cool. It's so sad what Universal Studios has become, because that used to be like one of the highlight rides, the Back to the Future ride. They could have built like an 80s diner like that. People would have loved that.
When I went
Just-
out to Florida, I went on that ride 7 times in total, and
Yeah.
bought an early pass to get into Universal just so that I can ride it as many times. And then the time I came out, the fourth one, the queue had built up, which meant
Wow.
that's fine. I can go on something else now.
Is it still there?
I think that's
or
the
not?
best.
No, it's gone.
It's been replaced by the Simpsons ride. For whatever reason. But this was a huge monument. It was a huge science block that you queued, and you were entertained while you queued. And then when you went into that, it is so far, it's the greatest ride I've ever been on, because it had everything, and it was so well thought out. And while you were watching the ride, it's a bit like if you looked that way and that way, you'd see DeLoreans everywhere because the screen was curved. But you thought when you were in there, it's just you. It's you chasing Biff and the other DeLorean, going back to prehistoric times, going back, getting eaten by a Tyrannosaurus. I miss that, and I'm glad I went on it as many times as I did.
Well, again, this is going. Well, I do kind of cover theme parks, but yeah, when Universal first came out, it was Universal movies, Jaws, like you would know for sure. And what were the other Universal movies? It was Twister Universal.
Twister was King Kong, Earthquake.
Yeah, and now they got rid of all of that. Like they have Transformers, which I think is Paramount. They have Harry Potter, which is Warner Brothers, and people miss that. Like I think people would love to go on the Jaws ride again.
Yeah,
and Back to the Future. It's just I don't understand their direction, although they're making a lot of money off of Harry Potter, so I guess they're happy.
I had a dream 4 years ago where I reimagined the Jaws ride. I know we're getting off slightly, but I woke up and drew it, what it would look like, and that would be amazing. I will tell you that another time. But okay. I redesigned it, and it's better. It's far better.
Jaws lives for Charlie's sake.
No, Jaws never goes
Martin
away.
Luther King. Now Charlie has a dream.
Once every 4 years, yeah. Okay.
Speaking of that, Jaws 19. This time it's really, really, really personal.
But the shark still looks fake.
No. Very good.
See, that wouldn't have made sense. Just because that number's too high. They'd have to. I feel like they'd have to release 2 Jaws films in a year.
Have you seen the trailer? Have you seen the trailer?
What?
For Jaws 19?
No.
There is a trailer.
There is.
Oh,
okay.
It's delightful. Do you know what? I might start actually putting some of these things that we talk about. I'll put links in the bottom of
You should.
In the YouTube. Yeah, I will do. Yeah, will do. Minor annoyance. Doc goes all the way to 2015 and spends time mapping out Marty's life. Now, presumably, he goes to 2015 and doesn't talk to Marty, grown-up Marty. Doesn't talk to him at all. Because Marty's not even aware of his existence.
He would know him for sure.
Would he? Because then he would go, do you know what? Is there any chance we can nip in the DeLorean and change that car crash that I have at the end of 3?
Yeah.
Because
I didn't
my
even
hand
think of
got
that.
busted up. And so I think that they never spoke. Which makes it even more odd that Doc fixates on the family enough to come back to Marty to go, do you know what? You need to come and fix all this. I'd be going, why are you concerned about my kids, you creep? It's a bit weird, isn't it? You don't speak to Marty, but you are looking at what happens. It's all a bit strange, I think.
Well, I would say, sorry, Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, another annoyance for me is it seems to be a cashless society. How did he pay for his Pepsi and the almanac?
Good question. Fingerprint, which no, wouldn't be the same. No,
Well,
Well-
Marty could have had money when he bought the almanac. Maybe they assumed that he was his grandson
Oh.
or his kid.
Doc opens up the briefcase and gives him money for clothes.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's right.
Oh no, does he
Um,
do that? He does that in 1955. Does he give him money? No, he doesn't.
No,
He doesn't give him anything in the future.
that's right. Yeah, he had the clothes in that little
Yeah.
contraption. But again, stuff like that, it's weird. Now that you bring it up, yeah, it does. It is an annoyance, and probably when I watch it again, like 10 years from now, it'll like go, yeah, why did they do that? That didn't make any sense. But I am so enthralled into the whole time travel thing that I'm only focusing on that, and that's why the movie's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But I would
these
say
these are good things to discuss and
Yeah,
talk
no,
about,
it is,
but
for sure.
Don't take anything away from the enjoyability.
One thing that they weren't too far off time-wise was the flying drone cameras.
Mm.
Yeah.
That
But
were
no
doing all
hoverboard-
the news.
But
and
no
stuff.
hoverboard.
It's always sad, like when you like a movie like Blade Runner, which is, I think it might have been, was 2000, it could have been 2016 or 2019, where we never got there, and it's the same thing with Back to the Future. Like, we don't have hover cars or flying cars, and you got to ask yourself why. Well, there'd be a lot of accidents, I'm sure, and that'd be a really painful death, I think, if you had to die in a flying car crash.
Yeah, now we've got potholes and blackouts. It's like, oh, great. Nobody.
But they
Potholes
missed
everywhere.
the significance of the iPhone. I think that changed a lot for our history anyway, that we have instant access to the internet, which we never thought that we'd have. You could do so many things with your phone that you barely use it as a phone now.
Yeah.
I think of all the time periods that are evoked in this film, though, the one that appeals to me most is the 50s. I think they make it look beautiful. The 50s looks like a really compelling place to be. The small town America, it looks that's where I'd visit if I had the opportunity.
It looks uncomplicated.
Yeah, and I'm sure entirely false as well. There's but it's a kind of a reimagining of the 50s. I think it's brilliant. The soundtrack's amazing as well. Every time they drop in there, it's like Mr. Sandman, all these incredible songs from the 1950s.
Yeah.
That's every time they go back to that era, that puts a big smile on my face, and I think that's my favourite part of the film. 50s America.
I did feel a bit cheated actually at the end, because it wasn't a proper end. It's like
the end of the
cliffhanger.
film, yeah.
Yeah, I felt this was a bit of a holding movie. It had a
But
bit.
it got you excited that you had to buy a ticket for Back to the Future Part 3 next year.
Exactly. It felt like it was a holding movie and almost like a pre-trailer for the third one.
But this is an annoyance they should have never included all that footage for Part 3 at the end.
What, as
we
the
should have been
trailer?
we should have been surprised, when we saw that movie. Yeah, we would have seen a trailer, but I think that it was wrong for them to show so much. I mean, they even show you, when I looked at it, the other night while I was watching it, they show you Marty back at the end of the movie, like when he's back to present day, which is bizarre.
Yeah.
I just thought that was too much. I wouldn't have included the trailer.
Teaser trailer would have been more appropriate, but by this time they've just got a wheelbarrow full of cash, haven't they? The first film was so outrageously kind of successful critically and commercially that they could afford to do what they did here and turn it into two films and trail the third film so explicitly at the end of this one. It is a little bit cynical, but it does it with a sense of humor. I think it's like the product placement that's all the way through the film. Nike and Pizza Hut and Calvin Klein. Absolutely blatant, but in a way that's quite tongue-in-cheek, and therefore I think just about gets away with it. And the Nike shoes that we talked about earlier as well. So, I mean, it's a commercial animal, and that really was Hollywood in the 1980s. Well, Hollywood in any era perhaps, but in the 80s,
Yeah.
I think they did it in a fun, engaging way. Nowadays, it's all a bit more po-faced and takes itself a bit too seriously, doesn't it? But back then, it was explicitly. We're here to make even more money out of you.
Not as explicit as Superman 2, is it? Really? No.
Oh, don't
Go and
I think
attack
Joe's only
Superman
just
2.
recovered.
Yeah.
I listened to him explain it on the podcast about how I'd given it. How about somebody? He didn't say who it was. Somebody had given it a 4. Or was
2.
it a 2? Yeah, he didn't. He didn't.
And I'm still not sure who did.
It was a man.
You guys can remain
Was it
silent.
me?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. He was. He was.
I
vexed.
gave it a 4.
Uh-oh. The
Uh-oh.
culprit is.
I gave it a 5.
I think I was the lowest.
4.
That's.
Yeah, I think it was Dom.
Oh, Dom. Oh. Oh well.
Real genius, Superman 2.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll agree with Real Genius right there.
Whoa.
Real Genius is like maybe a 1.
Real
Yeah.
Genius is exactly what I said it was. It's an 8. That's
It's not
exactly
an
what
8.
it is.
Real Genius is not
Yes.
an 8.
Yes. You
Oh,
didn't
he
do
sucks.
it. You didn't come on. It was just me and Dom.
It was
You
only my
said that you give it. You said you kind of liked it when you saw it.
me. It was only my
No,
second.
not you. You didn't.
I didn't have the confidence to give it the one it richly deserved, so I kind of gave it a 2 or a 3. Yeah.
Right, we're gonna move on to trivia time sooner than.
I just
sooner
want
than I
one
thought.
last annoyance that I have is who the hell is Doc to tell Marty not to use that book to make a profit in the present
Yeah.
day?
But he's
That
gonna
annoyed me.
change the future, isn't he, if he starts earning loads of money?
That's my whole dream, you know. I mean, so many times I
You
think
bet.
about that. Oh yeah, like I kind of like if I have a time machine and I can go back in the past and buy all these stocks like Apple, you know, and I would do all that. You know, it's not like I'd
Would
say,
you, though?
"Oh,
Would you?
yes, I would." But you know what I'd be afraid of is that something by me having that book, that something would change Apple, where it would not be profitable. You know,
Mhm.
like just one change, like in the future, might have affected something that happened in the past. I don't know how time travel works, but it's possible.
You'd have to do it in a way that it wasn't obvious you were investing.
I would do like what Biff did. You know, it's like, well, I'm going to play the horse races and see what happens, you know, and if I'm successful, I'll keep doing it, you know. Oh, and again,
But the thing is, if you kept winning, they might not have taken your bets because they'll say, no, I'm not taking your bet.
well, you can get other people to bet for you, or you can find other ways around it, I think, especially in this country, you know. I did want to say one thing that we didn't mention is like Biff was basically like Donald Trump in this movie.
He was based upon Donald Trump. Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah. I mean, people can say what they want about Donald Trump. He was a cultural icon, you know, when you think about it, that he was so well known back then that they based the character that Biff was on him. And then he became president. It's just bizarre, his life, you know. And I kind of laughed at that whole thing because, you know, Trump had casinos. He made a lot through real estate. And that's another thing with Biff. It's like, why would you stay there? You know, if you had all that money, I would have gone to so many different places, you know, and I would not have stayed in my hometown and become a jerk to everyone that lived there, you know, and make it.
Well, it's a bit hypocritical of Doc because in Back to the Future, if you remember, he says, "Oh, it would be great to know the past because I know who win the next 25 World Series."
Did he say that?
Yeah, really, Doc. So you don't. So you have your own standards that you'd nick the book, but you've had some sort of moral epiphany, and yet you're now enforcing it on Marty, who just wants to make a couple of bucks on the side.
And that's another thing that Marty could have made a ton of money on because he knew who was going to win the World Series, that the Cubs were going to win when they played in 2015 against well, I think they said it's Miami, but it would have been the Florida Marlins, you know, although they're both National Leagues, it would have never happened. But he would have made a ton of money, you know, because he knew that.
But if he's too busy turning the country to dust, I was about to say to SH, it's turning the country to dust, then surely it affects sports results. Because he's changed the past. Something that's like a butterfly, you know, causing a tornado in China. It's something's going to change because he's changed society. He's changed the way he goes out with Marilyn Monroe, for example. Yeah. Does that have any effect on something because somebody doesn't do something over here and then somebody, and you know?
Well,
it's kind of like his book doesn't work. The mafia would have whacked him, way back in the 70s and nicked the book, because they would have tortured him and gone, how do you know all this stuff that's going to happen? And yeah, he wouldn't have lived past 73, 74.
Well, spoiler alert, don't dwell on the consistencies of the timeline, which is also the whole premise of the film, clearly. But yeah, it's a load of nonsense because, as you correctly say, one small change can change the entire future, let alone all the pantomime slapstick that they barely get away with. Yeah.
And why wouldn't you get the book? If you're Marty, why wouldn't you get the book and then go, right, quick. Yeah, so it's the Steelers, the LA Raiders. Right, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Fine. You would just read a little bit. I mean, I've got the book here.
I think Joe's right.
It's on YouTube. I've got it just up here.
Or just rip a page out of it.
Yeah, whack Doc on the nose, tell him to mind his own business, and then go and live the life that you, richest man in the world.
What, nick the time machine and leave him with himself in 2015?
Well, the weird thing is, like with Back to the Future 3, they go back even further. So surely they're disrupting the timeline from way back there.
Well, yeah, because the woman that was supposed to die, Mary Steenburgen, who was supposed to die, who would have known if her death? Yeah.
Clara Clayton,
as Dom says, Clara Clayton. As Dom says, if you delve into this too much, you start being George from when we saw it.
Why did that happen? That should have happened, and yeah.
Yeah,
anyway.
and why did Biff marry Jennifer? I mean, of all the people he could have married, I would not have married Jennifer. And why did Jennifer marry him?
Well, she had no choice. She was strong-armed into it.
Oh, I forget. What was the strong arm thing? I forgot, and I watched it yesterday.
The implied thing is, I killed your husband.
She was a single mother.
I killed your husband, so I'll kill you if you don't marry me.
And the children are all dependent on him as well, aren't they? They've all got their own issues. And
God, wait a minute. We're turning this film into something really, really dark. I know you said it was dark at the start, but...
Just on the mother, though, yet again, for the second film in a row, we get some weird undertone between Marty and his mother, don't we? This one, not quite as bad as the first film, but she's got that enormous rack that he can't take his eyes off.
I know that, but it looks weird, though. That they don't look like boobs. It's even I was looking at it thinking that's just not right. That's not formed right.
Well, I'd have to ask Marty about that. He was staring at them closely and intently for a good 5 minutes, wasn't he? His own mother's. Yeah, so.
But you're so big.
Yeah,
it feels like planes, trains, and automobiles, Dom. What do you know? What would make me happy? Another pair of hands and an extra set of balls.
Oh, that film!
I do not.
How could I not
with my balls?
My top 5? Yeah, brilliant.
Anyway, right.
Those aren't pillows.
Oh, that's genius. I was about to say we should cover that, but we have.
What's next then?
Let's go to trivia time, because there might be some stuff
Time's
in there.
getting on now, babes.
All right, okay. Right. I always overrun and end up paying more for my hosting on my podcast. Last time it was you overran by 1 minute, so you need to pay $6 more. I'm like, oh, great, cheers.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Buzzsprout. According to Michael J. Fox, he found out there was going to be a sequel to Back to the Future when he watched the VHS version, and the words "to be continued" were added at the end.
Don't believe that.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, me too.
That sounds like a crock of pot.
Yeah, I think so. To commemorate the release of a 30th anniversary Back to the Future trilogy Blu-ray, which I had downstairs, a short movie called Back to the Future Doc Brown Saves the World was filmed with Christopher Lloyd reprising the role of Doc Brown. In the movie, Doc tapes a video message explaining that he travelled to the 2040s in a rebuilt DeLorean and discovered that inventions such as the hoverboard and dehydrated food will cause people to become massively overweight. Even worse, a simultaneous glitch in which every nuclear Mr. Fusion device on the planet would cause a nuclear holocaust that decimates the world's population. He subsequently travels back in time and successfully prevents those devices from ever being invented, thus explaining why the future 2015, as seen in this movie, didn't come true in reality.
I had seen that. I thought that was dumb.
It is dumb, because it doesn't make any sense. The Mr. Fusion device is the thing that gets you to the future in the first place, so... On another note, Robert Zemeckis, Bob Gale, makers of the film, admitted on the DVD commentary that they were originally not interested in doing the sequel, and the open ending of the first movie was simply meant as a final joke. However, when plans for a sequel were made by studio, chose to be involved and even extend it to 2 sequels. Zemeckis has claimed, as I said, if he was going to make a sequel, he wouldn't have put Jennifer in the car. Since the movie would concentrate, there's nothing to do. That's why she's knocked out early on, in that sense. When Hill Valley was created for Back to the Future in 1985, they built the town in the pristine 1955 condition, shot the middle of the movie, then damaged it for the 1985 town, and shot the beginning and end of the movie. When they decided to shoot Back to the Future 2, they went back to the set and had to clean it up and restore it to the same condition it was in 1955. And it cost more to rebuild than it cost to build it from scratch.
Oh my god!
Absolutely. I'm just going to come off because I'm reading this. The clouds at the start. Come on, film trivia fans, don't let me down.
That's a good point.
Do we know where that footage comes from?
I don't know, but it was annoying.
No, you've got the credits rolling over this rolling clouds of things, something travelling through the crowds. Do you know where the footage came from? Joe, I think you do know.
I'm gonna guess Superman. Is that
No.
No, I don't know, but I was thinking of Amanda during that time because I was saying how much better this would have been if we saw scenes from Back to the Future Part 1.
She doesn't like montages.
Yeah.
Long montages, anyway.
Yeah, no.
Because you didn't like the Superman 2 part.
No.
Oh, I love that. I love that stuff.
8 minutes, Joe. 8 minutes.
You'd rather watch clouds?
Well, it was okay, but it was a bit like... It wasn't even like it was a continual thing. It was just clips of clouds that were kind of not very well knitted together. So it just made me feel a bit dizzy.
The clouds were from the legendary 1982 Clint Eastwood film Firefox.
Never heard of it.
Oh my god! It's going to be one of my choices. I'm lucky there.
I've seen it, but I haven't seen Firefox in so long that I don't recall. I didn't put that together, but I can see that.
You can almost hear the music. Da, 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 da. Oh, amazing. The September the 8th, 2011, the Parkinson's Research Foundation announced that 1,500 pairs of the futuristic Nike shoes based on the sneakers worn by Michael J. Fox would be auctioned off on eBay. The first pair sold to rapper Tiny Temper for the winning bid of $37,500 for the limited edition. Well, they're probably worth like loads more now.
Really?
Probably like a good investment. An annoyance for you that Amanda, when you were watching the film, the reverse 99 image in the sky is not intended to represent a mathematical figure that designated the number of years travelled in time. It's merely the pair of flaming spiral trails the Delorean's wheel made as it spun out rapidly to 88 miles an hour after being hit by lightning. That's it. Sorry, there's no ulterior thing in that.
Well, like a big controversy in 2015 was they were selling the Pepsi from 2015, and they had a limited stock of what they were going to sell, and most people bought it and were selling it on eBay. So it was like you were paying like ridiculous amounts to get one of those Pepsis. It was a really big failed campaign.
It's like
a like, what's the
prime drink at the moment.
At the minute, Prime.
What's that?
Prime.
Oh well.
I
know. Dom,
that's worth like 300 quid. Don't open it.
What is that one?
Prime.
My youngest daughter was went on about it so long. I finally cracked and got it for her. Yeah. So this is what a bunch of YouTubers have been promoting, and it's been a massive success, I think, from what I can gather. But
yeah, massive success of people being conned buying something that would cost 19p in Morrison's. Probably the same stuff.
They're paying like £5 a bottle for it. It's mental.
And selling it for 300.
And they're dealing it in like school playgrounds and stuff. It's like drugs, essentially, but it's energy drink.
Close your ears, Dom, but I have to quote Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. A fool and their money are lucky enough to get together in the first place. Anyway,
greed is good.
Sorry, yeah.
Apparently. Yeah.
Anyway, another one I think it's good. So the gang that are chasing him over the water on the hoverboards.
Mm.
Cheryl Wheeler Duncan, she was the stunt double for the girl, Darlene Vogel, who was playing was injured during the film of the hoverboard sequence when, due to a technical mishap, instead of flying through the fake glass in the courthouse, she careered into the concrete pillar and then dropped 30 feet onto the concrete below.
Oh my God. Did she
However,
break her back?
They didn't reshoot the scene, and you can clearly see her hitting the pillar and falling to the ground in the final film. So if you want to go back, yes.
Oh my God. Did she really hurt herself?
It doesn't say. Sorry, it feels like I'm like, like police camera
Give us
action.
half
where you're
the
watching
story.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, 30 feet, she'd be dead.
Okay, how about she lived? Yay!
If you Wikipedia'd her.
No. No.
We'll look for
there
a
we go.
tombstone.
What's that?
So we'll look for a tombstone if it says died on the set of Back to the Future Part 2.
Wonderful. Anyway, there you go. There's trivia time. And there's the end of the season, everyone.
Wow.
We made it. Looks like we made it. Lucky dip. Start getting your thinking caps on for what we're going to do. I think we might take a little bit of a break. We'll come up with an idea, a bit like the what ifs that you and I did, Joe, so that we have a bit of a break before we launch into the next one. So not too much. I was thinking the idea that we had about, and we can all do this. So and it doesn't take a lot of preparation, I suppose. We can all put Bond themes into a bag and pull them out, and we can have matchups against each other, or Bond openings or something like that. Shouldn't take too long for you to watch. How many? 20, 22 Bond openings?
Just the opening sequence of movies?
Yeah, the opening
Bond
sequence
movies.
of Bond films, yeah.
All of them?
And rate them, yeah.
Absolutely all of them.
Well, you make it sound like it's a, you just have to, you could do 5.
I mean, like the George Lazenby ones.
Yeah, you can't
Only
discount
one.
them. I mean,
That's a good one, too.
it is. Spy Who Loved Me, Yeah. All of that. So we'll come up with something. As you can see, we've got plenty of discussion to have about that. But Dom's doing Clue. What did I just say? I think I mentioned 3 that I was doing.
Airwolf.
Oh no, I won't do Airwolf. Airwolf's a dismal
Street Hawk.
film.
I don't know. What was it?
Street Hawk. What? There's a Street Hawk movie. See you
don't
later,
know.
everyone.
Have I mixed up the words?
Don't know. Can we do Blue Thunder
Amanda,
again?
I'm curious to hear your what your thoughts are on this. I like your choices.
And me, because I have no idea.
No, there isn't one you've had in your back pocket that you've been keen to review and discuss? Some
Nope.
cherished childhood film, or
Cherished childhood film. She didn't watch
No.
anything in the
I
80s.
didn't really do films.
Yeah.
That was the birth of the podcast. I didn't do films, so Charles was like.
I introduced you to
me.
Iron Eagle, so there is that.
How much my life has been enriched.
As has everyone's. And don't forget, you thought Howard the Duck was an above-average film. So
Oh,
Right.
only because. What's the actor's name? Not the duck.
Jeffrey Jones,
That's it. It's
Mr.
funny.
Ed Rooney. Okay, Joe, have you got anything in
I
mind?
might bring back Cannonball Run 2 since I was forced to watch it.
Oh no.
Well, do you know what we can't? What we can't do? We can't override people's choices and start saying that we don't do them.
Oh.
Right? We've got to do them.
You do that all the time.
I know, but we're not doing it for this one. We're not doing it for this one. We'll have a genuine flip coin in the order that we go in, and that's the order that we go in, and we do 3 each.
Cut to Charlie sitting there with his arms folded, looking annoyed.
He's like, Vito.
Right,
No vetoing, says Mr. Axeman. Okay.
right. Well, who knows? It's going to be a lucky dip next season. It's going to be a lucky dip what you get in between the seasons, because we've yet to work that out. But yeah, thank you for being with us for the season. I've really enjoyed it. It's done the two films I really originally wanted to do. 2010 year we made contact, Jaws 3, and everything in between has been wonderful. So I've really enjoyed it. Okay, so this is the sign off from me. I'll say cheerio.
So
See you.
long, slackers.
Anyone else? What?
Come on, Joe.
Oh no, me? I was pointing at you, Amanda.
Oh God! It's like
Oh, I
the
said
Brady
see
Bunch.
ya.
Everyone's
I did
pointing
say
at a
see ya.
different.
See ya.
You first.
Okay, see ya.
Is that it?
Underrated.
Oh my
Overrated.
god, that's
Okay.
such a build-up. Right, Doodle Pip.
Okay, bye.